Hi, I'm Jeff Walters, and welcome to The Minutes. And thanks for listening today. It's great to have you along on The Minutes for the week of May the 27th, 2024. This is a City of Thunder Bay podcast. The Minutes takes a look at what happened at Thunder Bay City Council this past week. On this episode, we'll have a rundown at what happened at this week's City Council meeting and an interview with Kayla Dixon on the proposed indoor turf facility. It's been a long road to get to where we are, and we'll hear the latest in just a few minutes. But first, though, Council approved two contracts on Monday night. The first was to replace decking on the McKellar Island Bridge. The bridge links McKellar and Mission Islands. The work will be done by KEM Contracting for about $1.9 million. WSP Engineering will do engineering consulting work for just over $100,000. Emergency repairs were done to the bridge in 2020 when there were concerns about the bridge's ability to hold heavy trucks. This work that will be done, it will be permanent and includes replacing the bridge deck, providing structural strengthening so the bridge will meet current codes. The McKellar River Bridge has not lifted in many years, and it will remain as a fit structure. The bridge itself is owned by CPKC Rail, but under an agreement, the city is responsible for maintenance to the roadway on the bridge. Now, the second contract is for sewer work along Burwood Road and storm sewer work along Central Avenue. The work will be completed by Bay City contractors with a value of about $1.7 million. Hatch Limited will be the consulting engineer, with their services costing about $124,000. A new twin sewer along Burwood Road will be built, which is needed based on a servicing plan for the northwest portion of the city. The storm sewer will help with drainage issues in the same area. City Council spent a significant amount of time discussing and debating the latest report on the proposed indoor turf facility. This also included a deputation from Soccer Ontario and Soccer Canada. A report from administration recommended asking for a design-build proposal from the private sector. The cost of the project cannot exceed $42.7 million and must include a number of items for energy efficiency. This would help reduce the operating costs of the building. Now, the building itself would break even, but when factoring in replacement costs of the turf and debt repayment, the facility would run in the red annually. Administration figures it will take about 13 staff members to operate the turf facility. The turf facility concept was first brought to Council in 2016. Now, Council did approve putting the building out for a request for proposal, and there was also a deputation request from a member of the public that was submitted late on Monday. The procedural bylaw states that a deputation must be submitted by Thursday at noon. Now, there is some leeway with this timeline, and Council spent considerable time debating if this deputation should be allowed. In the end, the requester could come forward and speak on June the 3rd. That's prior to the ratification of the decision on indoor turf. We'll hear more about the turf facility proposal from Kayla Dixon, the Director of Engineering. She'll join me here on The Minutes in just a few moments. City Council approved some changes to the zoning bylaw on Monday night. Some of the changes were to make zoning rules clearer, while others allowed an increase in density. The changes include allowing up to 6 units per building lot. That's up from 4. It would also create new standards for 5 and 6 unit buildings in the urban low-rise zone. The maximum height of buildings in the urban mixed zones would increase and reduce some lot sizes to encourage more housing in the urban mixed zone. Parking requirements for apartment buildings would also decrease in some cases. Council approved more than $500,000 in funding through the Community Partnership Fund. $500,000 will go to the Regional Food Distribution Association, which will be used to expand the existing building. The space will be used for more food operations, a teaching kitchen, wild game meat processing kitchen, community meeting room, and outdoor space for fundraisers. Just over $14,000 will go to community clothing assistance to replace windows in the building. Money previously allocated to an expansion of Wetwardon Lodge will be released as the expansion is now on hold. An agreement with Ontario Aboriginal Housing Services would also be extended as part of the resolution. The Community Partnership Reserve Fund has just under $500,000 remaining in it. Applications for the funding were overseen by city staff. Council received an update on Monday on the 2023 budget. At the end of the year, the city had an unfavorable variance of $1.9 million, or 0.8% of the total budget. Council approved moving $1 million from the WSIB Reserve Fund to fund a portion of the 2023 deficit. The remainder would come from the Stabilization Reserve Fund. Rate-supported operations like water and wastewater ended up with a $1.5 million surplus. Overall, corporate revenues were higher, partially because of changes in how the city invests its reserve funds, while staff shortages across the corporation also resulted in savings. More money was also brought in from building permits. Overall, in 2023, the city increased its reserve funds for both rate and tax-supported operations. Reserve funds give the city some financial flexibility and the ability to adapt to fiscal changes. But there were higher costs when it came to renovations at the Canada Games Complex, Fort William Stadium, and Port Arthur Stadium. The cost of road reconstruction was also about $1 million higher than budgeted. Thunder Bay Fire Rescue also had higher overtime, WSIB, and other administrative costs, but most of the unfavorable variance can be attributed to the Thunder Bay Police Service and its board. That came in at about $3 million. Now, Council also received an update on Monday on the first quarter of this year's budget. At this point, administration forecasts 5 potential variances. This includes $1.4 million in additional investment income revenues and corporate expenses. Unfavorable variances of $700,000 to be found from higher WSIB costs in fire rescue and higher costs for roads and street lighting, particularly because of staff shortages. A resolution from Councillor Trevor Gertuga to limit councillors on how they can spend their personal budgets received lots of discussion on Monday night. The resolution wanted to stop councillors from purchasing tickets to events such as charity meals or retirement celebrations. After some discussion and inquiries on how much the city has spent on tickets, that resolution was lost. Council heard about the city's employment equity survey, which was conducted in 2023. Nearly 58% of city staff are women, about 6.5% are Indigenous, and about 6% are a visible minority. A report from administration says the city has slightly less staff with a disability and slightly less staff who are a visible minority than the city's labor force. There are significantly less staff who are self-identified as Indigenous in the city labor force. The survey of city staff is voluntary. Overall, the number of applications from women, though, has declined. With the number of applications from Indigenous people or people with a visible minority, those applications have increased. Administration says it will continue to support and promote equal opportunities for employment. And finally, congratulations to Karen Lewis, the General Manager of Corporate Services. Her retirement was announced at Council on Monday night. Lewis will retire in October. She has been with the city for 30 years, starting in 1994 in the Communications Department. She also hired me onto the city. Congratulations, Karen. We're wishing you all the best. And that's a wrap as to what happened at Council this week. For more information on anything that happens at Council, please visit our website, thunderbay.ca/council. The indoor turf facility. It's a divisive project in Thunder Bay, with many in support and also many against. On Monday, administration put forward a recommendation to Council. It's called for a design-build RFP to be created with a price tag not to exceed $42.7 million. Now, that resolution passed, but there are still some questions as to how this project is all going to unfold. Kayla Dixon is the Director of Engineering with the city, and she can speak about the indoor turf facility. Kayla, thanks for coming into the studio today.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So there have been, at least it kind of feels like to me, dozens of reports about the indoor turf facility. What was brought to Council on Monday night?
So we brought a recommendation forward that design-build RFP would go out to the market, which would have a mandatory bid cap of $42.7 million. So that would include the cost of the facility as well as site works.
And what exactly does that mean? You're saying design-build. What does that mean for what we get for that amount of money?
So basically, we would look for a team of a designer as well as a contractor to build the facility. They would bring proposals forward on what it is that they are proposing to build, and those would be scored. And then after the proposals are scored, we open up a separate envelope that has their costs associated with that project. And then based on that, we award to the highest rated proposal.
So this is actually a two-step process then. So you've got the thing that you're going to build and how you rank that, and then the cost on the other side of it as well.
Right. So it's considered a two-envelope process. So we open the first envelope, review the proposals, and then you open the bid proposal afterwards.
So what are some of the things that are part of this RFP? There's obviously, I guess, some standards that people have to meet. Can you talk about those?
Well, we will start, first of all, with a qualification for determining that the design-build teams that we're looking at actually are qualified for the work. And then we would invite the qualified proponents to provide a proposal. And then there will be certain mandatory requirements. So as I mentioned, the bid cap will be mandatory, but certainly things like the size of the field will be mandatory. There'll be mandatory requirements around numbers of washrooms, accessibility, energy efficiency as well.
So there was obviously a lot of discussion at Council on Monday. There always is whenever we talk about the indoor turf facility. What were some of the things that kind of caught your ear and you said, we ought to make sure we pay attention to some of these concerns?
Well, certainly there was a concern just to make sure that the users are involved in the process. But also we had some councillors speaking about the importance of energy efficiency and the ongoing operating costs that I guess savings in fact.
And you know, we've heard a lot about different proposals for this building. So we've heard about different locations. We've heard proposals from Soccer Northwest. I guess, how is this proposal different from what we've seen before?
So in the past, certainly we had the chapels option that was brought forward and moved through the process. That was a bit of a larger facility, more amenities, walking track, and it was a bit of a more standard construction. Now we've moved to a prefabricated steel structure. The amenities have been pared down in this case, but largely the turf size is about the same, and certainly the users are happy with the amenities that have been proposed.
And what about the site? Obviously, it's a different location than before, but is this site different to build on than what we had at Chapels?
It is different. So at Chapels, we had some deep soft soils requiring the facility at the time that was designed to be piled. I have now moved to the auditorium site, adjacent to the auditorium. So that site, we did have some environmental concerns. We've done some testing, and the soils that will be impacted, excavated, can either be reused on site or moved to a beneficial reuse site to be reused. So not as concerned about the contamination now that we've seen those test results. But the site does have other restrictions. So it's a smaller site. We do have a hydro pole line that goes beside the site. So there's really some definite site restrictions that facility needs to fit within.
Right, essentially. So if you're not moving that hydro line, you can't be building underneath of it.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll be moving the hydro line slightly, anyways, because otherwise it just doesn't fit.
When it comes to the financing of this, what's the proposal that we're seeing right now? How are we going to pay for this?
So the city does have a significant amount of money that's been set aside, committed for the turf facility. And then the additional funds, it's about $19 million-ish, will be debentured.
In the past, we heard from Soccer Northwest saying, we really want to see this facility go forward. We might help fundraise for a bit of it or something like that. Is that part of this plan at all?
So at this time, it's not considered as part of the funding, but certainly we would look for, if Soccer Northwest can do fundraising, but also, some of the councillors were interested in other fundraising that we could do, like when the auditorium went in, people bought or sponsored seats. So there could be other opportunities like that for either individual members of the community or different industry partners that might get involved in fundraising.
And then we've heard of lots of different options when it comes to operating the building. It could be a private sector, it could be operated by the city, a third party. I guess what's the options for operating the building right now?
So right now we would look at two options that are basically left at this time. So the city could hire an operator to operate the facility for us, or we could operate it ourselves.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of options there.
No. So we did go through a request for information from some proponents to see if they would be interested in doing what's called a design, build, operate, maintain model. And really there was little interest in doing that model.
And then I guess next steps. We've been hearing about this since 2016-ish or so. I guess what's the next step for this project?
So now we're looking at the procurement documents. So we will have to prepare those, and it will take some time for that. Obviously, actually, we need to wait for council to ratify this decision, and then we'll move forward with those.
And then what are the timelines for construction? Obviously, this is a big project. How long are we looking for before it could be open?
Yeah, so we are still looking at a construction start in probably May of 2025, so spring of next year. And then the facility, I've heard anywhere from a year to a year and a half for construction.
Kayla, appreciate you coming in today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Kayla Dixon is the Director of Engineering for the City of Thunder Bay, and she joined me here in the Minutes studio. A big thanks for listening to the Minutes this week. Of course, if you want more information about City Council, agendas, or minutes, just visit thunderbay.ca/council. If you want to listen to past episodes or maybe provide some feedback, visit thunderbay.ca/the-minutes. You can also find the Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. That includes Apple, Google, and Amazon podcasts, along with Spotify, plus our website as well. I'm Jeff Walters. Thanks for listening this week. We'll chat again next week. Make it a great day.